This is how we ride. This is how we do. Ride mud, slide, no.
Oh my, the push and flip. So, the push and flips. Yes, I know there's a late model Fender audience tuning in. Why can't we all just get along, people? Anyway. So for a little bit of a background to the Fender audience that don't know what I'm about to talk about, because everybody in the sprint car world already knows what I'm about to talk about. So there's this new series out there that you ain't heard, Fender people, called High Limit Racing, okay? High Limit Racing was started by Brad Sweet and Kyle Larson. So they started their first year last year as a 12-week mid-race series with Brad Sweet running it, Kyle Larson, but Brad Sweet was also running in the World of Outlaw Sprint Car Series. This is the point standings from last year. Have you been searching for that next level upgrade? Ready to invest into something that is in it for the long haul? Well, look no further than the composited innovations provided by Prime. These customly crafted pieces are handmade by former Jason Johnson Racing car chief and Prime owner-operator Clyde Cadet. Prime Composite Innovations is located centrally in Missouri and is looking to provide that big-time performance at a fraction of that big-time price. For additional information, visit prime-composites.com today to see what they have to offer, as well as their stable of current full-time drivers that trust Prime with their ride. For the future of innovations, with the properly composited type, you can depend, move forward, and rely on Prime. Okay, he won the championship. Actually did pretty damn well. Won the championship 60 points over David Gravel last year, picking up, I believe, his 5th title or something like that. Who cares right now? I mean, numbers never lie, but we're about to get into the damn numbers. Okay, so you have this situation. Brad Sweet wins the championship. Going on into this year, though, High Limit's going to go full-time series across the country, and Brad Sweet's going to leave. He's going to go High Limit. That's going to be the situation. That's how it's going to be played out. So Brad Sweet leaves and goes to High Limit. And David Gravel stays around, who finished second in the points last year. This is 2023 points. This is 2022 points. He finished second in 2022. I believe 2021 he was second as well. So you have a driver here. I think 2020, COVID, all this stuff, it wasn't a factor. But this was when the initial year of the Todd Queering Huset's number 2 machine that David Gravel and his team was formulated around. This was the beginning year in 21. Second to Brad Sweet. 22, second to Brad Sweet. 23, second to Brad Sweet. And then 24, everyone is saying, now that the one that you couldn't beat is gone, there's an asterisk on your championship here, David Gravel. That's why everybody's saying this, okay? It's not like it's just out of nowhere thinking and people are crazy and why would you say that? You're so mean to David. No, they see a guy finish second every year. They see a guy lose the Super Bowl every year to a certain team, and then that team leaves the league. And the team that you couldn't beat every year wasn't there, and you win. And that's why people are saying this. That's why people are thinking this. This is why. I mean, okay, if it's right or wrong or whatever, that's why people are saying this. And I hear the arguments all the time. Bobby Davis Jr. and Donnie Schatz, they won when Kinzer left or USA Series and NSTs or whatever the hell. Where's their asterisk? Well, for those who haven't noticed, the world has changed just a little tiny bit. There's this thing called social media. There's these things since those time periods, since Bobby Davis Jr. for sure, there's these things called cell phones. And then there was a flip phone that came out after Bobby Davis. And then there was laptops that got into people's rooms, and this thing called the internet started. And you know, right there around, I think when Donnie won that championship, there was this thing called a smartphone with a screen on it, and you could read, and you didn't have to push the 1 or 2, 3 or 4 different times to send a text to write hello. It took you like 5 fucking minutes to say goodbye. I'm just fucking saying, guys, the world today is not that world. The world today is interactive, socially interactive. Everybody has a voice. They're saying something. They're thinking something. They're saying it at the instant they think it. Just like me, and that's why you love it. And that's why we love the world today. It's fully interactive. But I guarantee you, if you had those Donnie Schatz situations or that Bobby Davis Jr. situation happen in today's world, it would be bigger than this. They may not even say Bobby Davis Jr. Has an asterisk. They might not even consider Bobby Davis Jr. the champion, at all, period, right? I mean, you're talking about taking away Steve Kinser in the competition department, not Brad Sweet. Even though Brad Sweet, 5-time champion, badass in his own right, he's not Steve Kinser. I don't think anyone would say he is. Could be doing just as special things as Steve. I mean, look at the competition today versus back then. The technology is more equal. There's some rights there, but Steve Kinser left and other top-tier name-right guys, and Bobby Davis Jr. won the championship. And I think that was the same case with Donnie Schatz and the NST split as well. So I think it would be even a bigger noise if that was the case, if we were in those years with today's technology and social interaction. But saying all this, I was trying to formulate the closest way, especially with this two-team this year, because the two-team, like I said, Todd Queering and them just starting that team with Cody and David, putting that together back just a few years ago, that team had been growing, developing, and getting to the point to where they all are today. So it was like this consistent rise with this team as far as working together, gelling together, and having good performances on the racetrack. And this year, David Gravel at tit for tat outperformed Brad Sweet when they were on the track at the same time. But Brad Sweet, the points racer, different than Brad Sweet, the event racer. And even though he wins some big events, obviously, he's got a Knoxville Nationals, he's got a Kings Royal. Brad Sweet's the ultimate points racer. I mean, look at, for those who keep up with sprint cars, he really didn't do nothing special this year at High Limit. He had a really big slump. He had a good, strong end, but he destroyed him in the points. I mean, even with all the slumps that Brad Sweet had this year, he still destroyed High Limit in the points category. It's a little bit closer over here. But there is one way to somewhat compare, for instance, last year's Brad Sweet to this year's Brad Sweet. So the only way I could formulate this idea of mine was to come here and look at the points of David Gravel. 9,020 points is what he ended the year with 66 starts on the track. So the only way we could get to a logical potential comparison to try to say if Brad was there, what would have happened, is to go by the law of averages in this scenario. From a championship year with Brad Sweet to a championship year with David Gravel. And Brad Sweet at 9,660 points and 71 starts. We even got this little thing over here called a calculator. Oh, we're going to use it later for your $100,000, bitch. Oh, we're going to use this. Look, another must-have product for some of you out there, and I have hands-on experience in this now, is the optics from Dethridge Certified Opticians. With drivers like Jonathan Davenport in the late model world and Donnie Schatz in the sprint car world utilizing these HD fog and glare resistant lenses, they have racked up millions of dollars, yes, millions of dollars on the racetrack, especially JD. This same technology can be utilized in the world outside of racing. When I got my pair, my biggest notice in using them is driving. Previously, a nice scene of mountains or just some country prairies or trees or lakes or something as you're driving down the highway would be somewhat of a blur at extreme distances. But when I put this pair on, I feel like I could see the leaves on a damn branch from a half mile away. The scenes and views are just literally enhanced. At night, it used to be horrible in trying to either drive in the rain or dodging white-tailed deer in the middle of the night, leaving these tracks that are located in BFE. But with these optics from Dethridge, the anti-glare technology meant for the racetrack transfers into defeating those horrific LED lights on the egotistical maniacs out there in their 2004 souped-up pickup trucks on 35s. Whether you already have glasses or think you may need some, this is the way to go. And he supports motorsports. I mean, this is a full around 100%, good for you, good for him, good for everybody in the motorsports world. And with the wide range of styles I saw within his shop, it opens the possibilities to all walks of life inside and outside of racing. Call Greg today at 940-733-2843 or visit DeathridgeOpticians.com. DeathErage opticians.com. And hey, let them know that you heard about them on the show. So with this calculator, we'll take the 9660, and then we'll divide that by 71 starts, which means that Brad Sweet had 136.06, we'll round up to 5, average point night in his championship season, okay? So, but that's divided between 71 nights. We got 65 nights here with David Gravel's championship year. So to find out where Brad Sweet would have slotted into this points race, all we have to do is take his average night finish in a championship season and times it by 65 to figure out a round estimate of where Brad Sweet would have actually finished in this year's events. So then you got the 136. Let's clear this out. 136. We'll even do it 136.056 times the 65 nights, which would have roughly gave you 8,843, or we'll give it 44 points, which would have slotted Brad Sweet into second in the point standings. Would have put him at 88-44, which would have been 30 points behind David Gravel in the 2024 championship year. That's utilizing his 2023 average finish, average point night. That's how many points he would averagely get in a points race. Now, the only issue with that, and I did run across this as I was tinkering with this, is it shows Brad Sweet with 71 starts, but it's actually 72 because it looks like he missed a main event. You'll get this in some of the stats, just like here with David Gravel. He has 65 starts, but you see everybody else except Sheldon is sitting at 64. So Gravel actually started one night more than ever. Gravel and Hodenshout actually started one night more of every night. So then you would take that 966. Let's see here. Then you would take that 9660 and divide it by 72, which would give you a 134.16. So then you do the 134.16 times the 65 nights, and that would give you 8720. So in that estimation, if that's right, I'm just giving both examples here because I'm not sure what the one night, it could be like just a show point night situation. But in that situation where he pulls in the 8720, he would have finished in third behind Macedo within the striking distance area, but ahead of Donnie Schott. So he would have been third in points. Now, there are other years in here where Brad Sweet did extremely well. For instance, we're sitting here talking about averages. The other one was that 136.05 average point night. 2022, for instance, here he had 69 starts with 9282. Let's see here, 9282. And that was 69, correct? Yeah, divided by 69. 134.52. See, that would have still finished, let's see here, 134.52 times the 65. Yep, 65. That would have put him 87.43. He's still finishing in third. Now, the only year I could find where he would have really did something drastic, and this was a very impressive year for Brad Sweet, and that was 2021. How about this? They had 77 race nights. He had 16 wins. No doubts in this one who was the champion. In fact, I believe in these 3 seasons I'm talking about, that is the most for wins. So, yeah, I mean, this year Gravel got 15, so Gravel got close. But 2021, Brad Sweet was definitely stout. 10.594 on a 77. on a 77 night. That's a 137.58. So 137.58 times the 65 race nights would have been 89.42, which would have obliterated pretty much any championship run you would have. But outside the 2021 year, which was the first year with this team that David Gravel and them have been working on since then, David Gravel outdoes Brad Sweet. This year's David Gravel outdoes Brad Sweet in 23 and 22. And you can't really say this year because of the schedules and splits. But this was the only way that I could technically try to add some, David Gravel's year this year was a championship caliber year. So much so that his average point night would have beat an average point night of a Brad Sweet, who won a previous World Outlaw Championship. Now, obviously, there's, once again, I said it the other day, there isn't an asterisk on this championship. I do think there is still a question mark, and even in this scenario, there's a question mark because we could do all these numbers, all these things. But at the end of the day, we would still have to sit here and be like, well, Brad Sweet wasn't in the field, so what would David Gravel's points be if he had to compete with Brad Sweet every night in and night out? Because the numbers I'm giving you from 23 and 22, David Gravel's there every night. So he's having to compete against him. Whereas this stat, these numbers, this points that is accumulated with David Gravel, it's not consistently competing against Brad. But it is consistently competing against the best of very stout field. And he consistently put up numbers, points, that was statistically, by the numbers, better than a Brad Sweet championship season in 23 and 22. I still say question mark because the question mark will always be there. What would have happened? It's not an asterisk. I feel like the word asterisk in today's scenario is like the Steve Kinser to Bobby Davis Jr. If that thing would have happened in today's world, I don't even think they would consider, Bobby Davis Jr. the champion. I mean, it's the king. And I feel like the word asterisk in this situation is basically saying, well, if Brad was there, he would have won it. I'm saying question mark because it will be a question mark. If Brad was there, what would have happened? This type of season, a championship for David Gravel could have happened. There was a lot of could have happens in 2023. Last year, it was a toss-up. 22, a little further distance, but 21 obviously destroyed by Brad Sweet. But I do think there's a question mark. It's unfortunate there's not a period here. But the greatest thing the World of Outlaws and everybody can say to that is the reason there is a question mark and not a period is because these little fuckers known as Brad Sweet and Kyle Larson started a series and split the sprint car world and fucked it all up. So you can just blame them for why this is even a topic, right? We can say that, right? I mean, that's the truth. I'm curious on the response from the chat down here.
This is how we do. Riding mud, sliding up.